Welcome to the VMware on AWS Update Show, the October 2023 edition. On the Update Show, we bring you up to speed with new releases and features on everything VMware and AWS related. We'll cover jointly engineered services such as VMware Cloud on AWS, which is the fastest and lowest risk path to get your VMware workloads into the AWS cloud. And we'll be covering additional AWS and VMware services which enhance the VMware Cloud experience, such as VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery, VMware HCX, AWS Backup, and Amazon FSx. Plus, we'll let you know about any recently released blog articles, reference architectures, and customer case studies. Each show will select one or two items from recent updates, and with our guests, we'll dive into those a little deeper. I'm Chris Porter, and unfortunately, my regular co-host Natasha Marinakis can't join us this month. On the agenda for today's show, we have our regular roundup of updates from the world of VMware and AWS. And then this month, we'll dive deep into using AWS Systems Manager with VMware Cloud on AWS, and we'll cover integrating VMware Horizon with Workspaces Core. Let's get started. For this month, we have updates covering a number of different services, and we'll start with VMware Cloud on AWS. The i4i instance is now available in Zurich. We have single host SDC support now in GovCloud. We have Department of Defense IL5 provisional authorization. And for VMware Cloud Sizer, we have a new cluster conversion estimation capability. The Cloud Sizer has been updated to version 5.4, which brings advanced manual mode for non-VDI, and that supports external storage, profile settings, and that Sizer version has been updated to use the version 5 Sizer algorithms. The Quick Sizer has also been updated to allow the default setting to use external storage and to simplify the configuration of profile settings. For other VMware services, we've seen updates to VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery that's added support for protecting workloads with a 15-minute RPO. This feature is currently in preview. VMware Cloud Director service now supports VMware Cloud Director 10.5. It can also be configured to send system email notifications and can now access an NSX Advanced Load Balancer controller inside an SDC by using proxy routing. Moving on to blogs, videos, and customer case studies. We saw 3 blogs released in the last month. The first, written by Bianca Velasco at AWS, recaps on AWS at VMware Explore and reflects on the past 6 years of collaboration with VMware. The second post covers the newly introduced VPC peering capability for Amazon FSx with VMware Cloud on AWS and is written by a team from across AWS, Kieran Reed, Pat Brandel, Siegfried Igler, and Ali Sada. Finally, for this month, we hear from Tim Carr at Everden and Anil Sharma from AWS, covering best practices for migrating to VMware Cloud on AWS. For customer case studies, in Japan we learnt how Fujifilm Systems consolidated server infrastructure using VMware Cloud on AWS in just 3 months. And that wraps up the updates for this month. Earlier this year, AWS published a blog post covering AWS Systems Manager with VMware Cloud on AWS for operations management. On the show, we thought this would be a great topic to dive a little deeper into, and so I'm delighted to be joined today by one of the authors of that blog post, Paul Craddock. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Hey, thanks, Chris. I really appreciate the time.
So let's get started with a quick overview of AWS Systems Manager for those who perhaps aren't familiar with this service. What is Systems Manager?
Yeah, so AWS Systems Manager is a tool, or really a suite of tools with four main categories: operations management, application management, change management, and then node management.
And so how do customers set up AWS Systems Manager with virtual machines they're running on VMware Cloud on AWS?
Yeah. So one of the amazingly powerful things about Systems Manager, and one of the reasons that I loved working with it, is its ability to manage not only servers in EC2, but servers in VMware Cloud on AWS, as well as even on-prem. Now, we do this through using an agent. So it's an agent-based install. So we install the agent within VMC instances, or VMC virtual machines, rather, or even on-prem virtual machines. And through that agent, we're able to apply patch baselines or configurations to really a server no matter where it sits within our network. We do that through an operation called Fleet Management or Fleet Manager, where we do hybrid activations. So we would turn on a hybrid activation. It's got a few roles and things you would pre-create, and we can talk about more in detail about how to get started there. But once that hybrid activation is up, it gives you a code and an ID. You put that in, and you're really off to the races at that point.
And so with that setup in place, it seems customers can easily start using Systems Manager with VMs running on VMware Cloud AWS, or as you say, on premises. Can you talk us through some of the typical operations that you covered in your blog post?
Yeah, there were two main sections within the blog post, but certainly there's a whole, there's almost an endless possibility of what you could do. But what we focused on was patching. So one of the problems we found, one of the challenges many of our customers talked to us about was having this disparate set of tools for patching on-prem, patching EC2, patching, vSphere VMs. And so we were able to solve that with AWS Systems Manager. And so we talked through how to patch, how to set a baseline that applies to just Windows and just Linux, again, regardless of underlying platform, as well as how to set up applications, so application management, so pushing, say, various applications into different servers, different operating systems, so you don't have to log in and manually install applications in every different server. We show a fairly simple one within the blog, but again, for our builders, sky's the limit on what you could really build with that.
And you talked about there was a couple of solutions you did there. So there was one around patch management. Was there any other kind of topics you covered in the blog post that our viewers might be interested in talking about a little bit more today?
Yeah. So patch management, but then also that's that application manager where you would set your application install files and configuration files in like an S3 bucket, and then use AWS Systems Manager to grab those and inject that application into your Linux or Windows virtual machines. The other nice thing about AWS Systems Manager is it seamlessly integrates to a larger security tool we call Security Hub. And this is a single pane of glass for viewing all kinds of different security frameworks and measuring your infrastructure against that. Basic things like our AWS, best practices around security. You can score yourself there. But there are other compliance frameworks that you can apply and see what your security score is and see very high critical things, very low informational things, and sort of the gamut in between. And AWS Systems Manager links right into that. So there was actually a demo. We're publishing a solutions guidance for our customers that'll be hopefully available publicly very soon, where you'll see within the demo, we see a VM failing compliance checks, and then that security notification being fed into Security Hub right next to all the rest of our AWS recommendations, so that there's one place to go to see, I'm out of compliance. Let me go ahead and remediate and patch, or let me go ahead and update my application because it has a vulnerability that I need to be aware of.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's really exciting, and can't wait for that kind of solutions guidance to be published for myself as well as our kind of viewers to find out more about that. Where should customers, viewers, kind of our AWS community go to get more information about the blog post and maybe try out some of these services together?
Yeah. So a couple places to start. And one of the great things about Systems Manager is, just like so many of our other solutions, it's click to add, pay for what you consume, shut it down if you don't like it, scale up if you do. And so it's very simple. Within the AWS console, you can just type AWS Systems Manager, and it's right there. There's a huge Getting Started with Systems Manager button that will take you to the documentation, walk you through the hybrid activation and the various components there. There's obviously the blog post you mentioned before that you can read through, and there's some documentation links in there on how to get started. And then again, hopefully very soon we'll have that solutions guidance published that will walk our customers through overall architecture diagrams, getting started, demos, and then some more resources to get set up.
Brilliant. So loads of areas for our viewers to kind of dive a little deeper. One of the things I like about the blog post as well is it's got some CloudFormation templates it links to so that you can deploy those examples programmatically and get started that way. So for customers that prefer that manner of kind of getting hands-on, it's a great option for them as well. So brilliant. So that about wraps up. Paul, thank you ever so much for coming on the show.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. Have a great day, everyone.
In August this year, AWS announced that customers can now bring Microsoft 365 licenses to Amazon Workspaces. Coupled with the announcement last year that VMware and AWS had worked together to bring VMware Horizon support for Amazon Workspaces Core, we thought it would be a good time to recap these services and how they work together. To cover this today, it is my great pleasure to introduce Phil Pearson from AWS. Phil, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
So, Phil, can we start with a quick overview of Amazon Workspaces and Workspaces Core?
Yeah, so Amazon Workspaces is a desktop as a service solution offered by AWS. It's a managed service that our customers can consume, pay per consume, pay by the hour, in a secure, delivered manner to your end users. Workspaces Core allows customers to bring their existing VDI solutions into Amazon Workspaces, powered by Amazon Workspaces, so they're able to deploy without needing to worry about hardware or any underlying infrastructure and just consume their existing VDI licenses inside of AWS.
And so that Workspaces Core capability is really what we're talking about today. And as you say, customers can use their existing VDI solution to get the benefits of what they've invested in already on premises and they're kind of used to managing, and then bring Workspaces Core. So one of those solutions is VMware Horizon that we support. Can you talk me through a little bit more about kind of how those two work together?
Yeah, so customers are able to bring VMware Horizon into Amazon Workspaces and leverage, rather than invest in on-premise infrastructure to run their virtual desktops, they can invest and bring those into Amazon Workspaces. So they're able to securely deliver virtual desktops to their end users, paid by the hour, paid by the month, with a flexible scale up and scale down as you need it.
And then, so earlier this year, I think it was August, there was a significant announcement from Amazon and Microsoft that the terms have been updated to allow customers to bring their Microsoft 365 licenses to Workspaces and Workspaces Core. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, very exciting for our customers. So starting 1st of August, Microsoft and AWS announced the ability to bring your own Microsoft 365 licenses into Amazon Workspaces and Workspaces Core, allowing customers can consume those applications inside of those virtual desktop solutions.
And so it's kind of clear to see that it's a really compelling option now for customers that are using VMware Horizon on premises. Typically, they'll be using virtual desktops with Microsoft Office. And prior to the 1st of August, they may have been blocked about kind of how they use that in the AWS cloud. Now they can use Workspaces Core, as you say, familiar environment management with Horizon, and bring those Microsoft licenses with those as well. Yeah, that's brilliant to talk about and dive into those. Thanks for your time, Phil.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that wraps up another episode of the Update Show. It's been super fun to talk about all the latest and greatest events from the last months related to VMware and AWS. Thank you ever so much for joining us. You can find more information on the AWS website. Just search for VMware, and we'll have information on all the updates covered in this month's show in the description down below. There will also be a link in the description that will allow you to get in contact with a representative from AWS. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.